take a long time to reiterate that which you've heard because I work with each one, but is to say that I believe fundamentally that Sarasota can be different in how we respond to homelessness within a year. It's absolutely true. The issues of homelessness and how we deal with them are a choice of the community. The way that things are not solved is by not choosing on the hard decisions. There are some sub-segments, such as families and veterans and seniors and vulnerables, that you can actually move a little bit more quickly on. I have a general rule of thumb: if someone's over 53, they should be housed. The reason being is last year the average age of those who died who were homeless was 53. So I think there's a time to say, you know what, at 53, you may not be very likely to become gainfully employed in Sarasota in such a way that allows you housing in a quick manner. Instead, some people should just be housed. But as we go through the subsegments of populations, we can say, okay, what do we do for those who are difficult? How many people can Sarasota absorb in a given year into the housing market? We're a very difficult market. And so how do we use conversations to say, like the bus pass program, and I know the national media has a good time with that, I understand that, but what they don't say is that when we send someone out of town, we actually send a letter of commitment of funds to the Salvation Army where they're going, so that we will actually use Sarasota funds to help them reestablish in the community where they live. What they don't say is to the 19-year-old who has another baby in her belly and one in tow, it's much better to send her with a commitment of $1,000 to her family back to Texas than to have her live on our streets for the next 10 years. And so we need to decide as a community that we're going to back one another up, so we are a yes and community, not an either or community. This isn't a question of do we need housing first or shelter. Friends, we need housing first and shelter. But the only solution to homelessness is housing. And as we're developing in the county very quickly, right, one of the things that we can't say is that homelessness is ruining our communities. How do I know? Because there's more cranes in the sky than we have parking spots for, right? So this is a social justice issue. This is a responsibility issue. This is a planning issue. And so this is not a matter of, is it the city or the county or the Salvation Army or agencies or whatnot. This is a matter of a community. How are we going to take responsible for those who've been living on the streets for different reasons? And how are we going to welcome new people in? And the real strength of any program is the social legitimacy of it. It's a consistency of policy so that people are backing people up. The city is about to look at ordinances to move things off the street. Well, of course, people respond very quickly. Well, what are you going to do? Well, let me tell you, for someone who's been in this for 15 years, our police department is regularly recognized for their compassion within the community. Their staff was sitting in my office today in our conference room, along with people from the Resurrection House, Code Enforcement, the Salvation Army, and they look at our most difficult people one at a time to see how they can get into housing, right? It's difficult work, but they do it because they know them. And the code enforcement isn't for the person who's carrying a backpack. Unfortunately, in the community, we have a couple of hoarders, which are not uncommon, and we have a couple on Central. And so we have one lady that has 20 feet of stuff. And you can't make this up. We tried to help her move into stuff, into a house. We told her we would store her stuff, but it's her stuff, and she's very attached to it. And we can try to do many things, but as a community, essentially you have to say how many things can someone have with them outside. So on Central today, you can't make this stuff up. This is where I live. I go down Central, I couldn't see anyone. There was no one on Central. But all the stuff was still there. So you kind of wonder, well, where did they go? And I'm not suggesting that we throw away tents or anything else, and we haven't seen any experience with the police. When they do this, they do it very carefully. They tag it, they store it, they take a lot of responsibility for it all through the process. But I can tell you, after the holidays, we threw away 1.5 tons of stuff because everyone decided at Christmas that someone on Central needed to have a new dress. It doesn't work. If clothes ended homelessness, there'd be no more homelessness on Central or Kumquat, or those other places people like to drop off clothes. So my encouragement on the good news is thankfully the meetings we've had here, people have come in on their bicycles and with their Bentleys and sat at the same table. And they sit and talk about humanity, and humanity says that there has to be room for all of us within community. And if we choose to work that way, to say what the county does is necessary, and thank you, Wayne, for your great leadership, and what the cities does is necessary, and thank you, Tom, for your leadership, and what the business community does is necessary, and the nonprofit does, if we say yes and, we can fundamentally choose. And do not be mistaken for a moment. For those who are unaware, the homelessness in the U.S. is in a significant decline. That decline is moving south quickly, right? So we cannot choose how that is going to be represented all over Florida. We only have the choice of how we represent it in Sarasota. But with the growth of 10,000 new homes likely in the next couple of years in Sarasota County, this is what I know. Sarasota is a sticky magnet. How many of you, when you came to Florida because it had a good quality of life, invited your friends, families, or a stranger just because it was so nice here? Did anyone invite anyone else? Yeah, well, they stay. Thank you very much. And maybe some of you had someone who stayed too long and you said, it was really nice to have you, but you can't stay here anymore. And they called down to the Salvation Army and said, I'm sorry, how much a night is it at your place? And where that's half funny, the other side of that true is we get the grandchildren. Our average age in the shelter right now for drugs and alcohol is about 23 to 25. And it keeps going down. Right? So these are not people who are becoming homeless that we don't know. They're somebody's grandchildren that most of the time that was invited to town. And so how do we create room for people to live here? We're a sticky magnet. People love to come, they invite others, they don't leave. And so these are social responsibilities. So the good news is we get to choose. I love this is absolutely achievable how we choose. We can know how to bring someone into the system, to Kevin's point, what resources are available to them, how we respond if they don't want any of the community's resources. If someone doesn't want anything that we have to offer, then how do we respond to them? That can be different than no response at all. But the last good news, let me say, because I just got the news today, City Manager, 67% so far this year at the street team have found jobs in the city and or county and are now housed. 67% of people who were homeless one day are now employed in the house, right? So those are the things that we need to share, and they're being hired. We have specific businesses that will hire our folks all day long because they've shown and proven their work ethic by getting up every morning and cleaning our streets. Right? They want to be part of the community. And so let us not be defined by the naysayers, or by those who may have special needs, but let us be defined by those who are achieving and pay special attention to those who need specific assistance. Thanks, it's great to be with you.